Hey everybody, I'm John Granado, and that's Lance Erline. You can hear us mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Hit subscribe so you get all of our content here at SportsMap HOU. John Heyman put out there that the Astros are in the market for an elite pitcher, Lance. That flies in the face of what we heard from Dana Brown. I mean, this sounds like an economic offseason to me. Do you think it's more likely Dana Brown is downplaying his intent, or is this report off the mark?
Well, I think they could both be true. You might not be spending a bunch of money in terms of your acquisitions, but in free agency, but maybe part of a trade. You know, maybe you'll end up dealing one of your position players and one of your, pitchers, and in a package, in some type of package that involves or includes a big-time pitcher. Maybe that's something that we'll see. That doesn't mean that you're spending a ton of money necessarily.
Well, how are you going to get a big-time pitcher if you're not spending a lot of money?
Well, I mean, look, it would take moving a guy like Bregman or moving a guy like Kyle Tucker could end up. I mean, if you
Kyle
move
Tucker's
Bregman,
only going to be about 12 million. Bregman's going to be around 30.
If you move Bregman,
Yeah.
you could end up getting a pitcher.
Yeah.
And then, the thought would be you could go after a third baseman or a shortstop. I say shortstop because I think ultimately you may end up seeing the same kind of A-Rod transition for Jeremy Pena where he becomes a third baseman. At some point in his career, we might see that, especially if he can hit with some power. But that might be one way, just throwing that out there. You've heard that maybe the Astros won't, do a deal with Alex Bregman. I know other people have heard the same thing. So maybe that's something you would look at. Instead of spending a bunch of money in free agency, maybe you're flopping money.
Yeah, that could well happen. But there's no way they're going to spend that kind of money on free agency. And as a matter of fact, that was in the same report that he had about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And considering the price tag for Yoshida, that deal was 5 years, $90 million. Could you see the Astros being in on Yamamoto?
It would be unusual because we haven't seen them in on an Asian player up to this point. Which it's been all Latin American players, and I don't know from a scouting standpoint, what their presence is. So it'd be a little unusual. They did go after Yuli when Yuli was a veteran player who came out. I don't know. It would be interesting to see how they would handle that. I do think the Astros need to figure out what they have in Hunter Brown before anything else happens. And if you don't believe in Hunter Brown, then he may be a valuable trade commodity right now, a very valuable trade commodity.
Why? What are you going to – I mean, he's lost value this offseason. If you would have traded him last offseason, I think he's worth a lot more than he is now. Yeah, but he's one of those guys that the Astros would have targeted. A smart team would target him. Because you know the talent he has. You got a chance to buy low. Like if I'm a team, I would be calling the Astros to say, hey, you got a little bit of a glut at pitcher. Any chance? Now, I also think the Astros are smart enough to say, nope, we absolutely will not move. We absolutely will not move Hunter Brown. Because I think you would be selling low if you moved Hunter Brown right now. Because I think the talent is enormous with Hunter Brown. But getting back to would you be willing to spend money for some of these pitchers? No, not based on what Dana said. No, I don't see them doing that. And speaking of starters, Aaron Nola just inked a deal, 7 years, $172 million. That's about $24 million a year. You think that'll be in the Framber price zone?
I could see it. I could see the Astros using that.
Will Crane pay it?
I think he would.
I don't know. Not after he's going to have to.
Who's he going to sign? Is anyone getting signed ever?
I don't know. I don't think. First of all, 7 years, and secondly, Framber's got to get his head on straight. Framber did not have his head on straight. Framber's got a lot to prove this offseason. Hunter Brown's got a lot to prove this offseason. Christian Javier's got a lot to prove this offseason. J.P. France has got a lot to prove this offseason because if he can continue, if he does what he did last year, J.P. France is going to be in line to make some money in the league. So this Astros pitching staff has a lot to prove this season.
Well, Framber has had 3.5 good years. Well, I'm counting 20 as a full year. Really, that's a half year also. But I don't know that Framber has anything to prove other than that he needs to shake off the bad second half that he had. He wasn't good at home.
Yeah.
He wasn't good at home. He's just got to show that. But he's got a much larger sample size of really good pitching. I'd hate to be his agent and have the Astros try to argue in the future that he hasn't proven enough. I mean, Framber's been the most consistent Astros pitcher on the roster. So, I don't know. I think he's proven quite a bit.
Well,
is it enough to get the Nola deal? I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah,
he's clearly your one or your two.
I think that's ballpark for Framber. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would use that.
Nola's a top pitcher in the league, and Framber's a top pitcher in the league when he's right. So, yeah, I think that would be – it seems like maybe even that price tag is a lot less than we thought.
It's lower than I thought it was going to be, but I also think it may be a realistic market value now. The marketplace may be shrinking a little bit where the chasm of the middle class, like it's not going to just settle into a bunch of $30 million contracts. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the superstars are going to get the big contracts, and I think we're going to start looking at that mid-20 range for that next tier down.
It'd be a big jump for Crane to pay that, although he did pay Justin Verlander. He hasn't paid anybody else like that, that's for sure. And, he just gave Javier $564. So that's 172 is a long way from $64 million. So we'll see whether or not Jim Crane is going to – he hasn't shown any inclination to do that so far, so we'll see.